what's the worst you can remember? The worst incident that was so embarrassing and so dreadful that you want to cover it up. I mean, something that really went bad, a gig, or as Nick says, you know, a gig or something that really fouled up.
Well, I got we were touring Canada. I think we were in Toronto, but we had this stage set with drums right at the back and two sloping sides. And at the end of the show, I was supposed to run down, and you know, everybody gets the bow at the end. Well, for this particular show, we hadn't been able to find any dry ice, so we resorted to oil. So you know, the oil's going. End of the show comes, you know, bang bang boom tish. All right, run down the thing. As I'm running down the conveyor belt, so to speak, it was slippery because it was oil, not dry ice. Flat on my ass, right down in front of the stage, landed in front of the microphone. Like the whole place just go, can I really see that? So that was embarrassing. It wasn't nasty, and it's just so embarrassing, you know, when you stand up and then you take your bow.
And then you take your bow. Well,
yeah.
What about you, Nigel? Have you ever sort of, I'm sure we all have you fucked up on a set and thought, oh, bloody hell, I shouldn't have done that. I've shown myself up here.
Well, frequently. I mean, well, the worst is when you know, I've done some movies, is when you're doing a love scene and you know, you have to explain to the actors how you want them to do it. And halfway through explaining, you know, put your hand here, I want to hear this, I want to see that, you suddenly turn around and you see the entire crew silently watching you explain to somebody how to do the deed. And obviously on some level, you're telling them the way that you would be doing it. So judging your sexual prowess or lack of it, more likely. I think if we're talking about really embarrassing, I flew back to the UK to do a video for Cher for a track called Believe, which everybody said was not going to be a hit. And of course it became her biggest ever single. And she said, you have to come and see me on Saturday night. I'm miming the song at this gay club in London. And I've never been to a gay club in my life. Honest. Anyway, so I go there and I go back and it's like midnight or something. So, you know, I go up to the box office. I am here to see Cher, which is very embarrassing because you don't want to be the one person in the line who seems to know the artist. So I get whisked backstage and that's her dressing room there. So I knock on the door, come in, I go in and there's Cher doing her makeup on her own, except with one other person. And she says, you know Ben, of course. So I turn around and there's Ben Kingsley. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm marooned in a dressing room in a gay club at midnight with Cher and Ben Kingsley. What do I say? What do I do? So I hold out my hand and walk to Ben to shake his hand. And all I can think to say is, love the haircut. We both have the same haircut. At which point Ben turns away and refuses to look in my direction again.
You call him Sir Ben.
So, well, yes, perhaps I should have called him Sir or Sir Ben.
He insists on people calling him Sir Ben Kingsley.
Okay, well, there you go. So I mean, it's difficult when you suddenly turn around and Gandhi's standing in front of you.
Of course, Gandhi, he made one good film and then no one heard from him again. You know, just a real problem.
He was very good in Schindler's List.
Yes,
indeed.
But this is exactly what I'm after. You Cher and Ben Kingsley in a gay club. That I think, yeah, that'll do. Brian, what about you?
Yeah. I'm chomping at the bit because John Miles, again, Steve knows John very well. He promoted the band.
But only because, Brian, only because John Miles, Mr. Music, I was your tour manager, wasn't I, Brian, for the band
Yes,
in 1976 in Scandinavia,
Yes.
which is one of the most bizarre times of my life.
We got a flat tire and the roadie. The roadie had to fix it, and it was knee deep in snow, and it's bloody freezing cold out there. So we wouldn't get out the car, so we had to deal with it with us, all our cars, this roadie. And it takes 2 hours. He's frozen to death. And Cliff Cooper, the manager, goes, "It's all right, Mike." He says, "Oh, make sure you're all right when you get back to the hotel. I'll make sure you're all right. You know me, you know, and John won't mind about the expense." So we get back to the hotel, and Cliff gives him a John Mayall album. And the roadie looks at him and says, "You know what, Cliff?" He says, "If you cannot drink it, smoke it, or toot it, it ain't nae good to me." And Cliff Cooper. But the other one, of course, was Mr. John Mayall. We had a day off in Los Angeles. So a few of us, 3 of us actually, went to his house, Laurel Canyon, I think it was. As I'm walking in, I look up at this like 4-story house, and there's a conveyor belt of blonde valley girls jumping off the roof into the pool and barely getting into the pool because it was a fair way from the house. I couldn't see. They were naked. That was the only reason I saw what was going on. I bothered looking. They were starkers. So that was like, I'd just come from Bolton, so where nothing happens. So I couldn't believe this. So I'm walking by, and they're coming over my head, kamikazes. And there's a trench table, a big table with the forms, like, you know, the old forms you had at school. And I ended up going round the table and sitting next to John. And I'm looking at all these girls, and I've got my beer, and it's shaking like crazy because I really was embarrassed to fuck. Anyway, 10 minutes go by, John turns around to us and says, "Well, I don't know about you guys, but I fancy a beer." I said, "Well, look, I've shook all mine away here, so I'll have a beer with you." So they said, "Yeah, okay." He stands up and he turns round, and he nearly knocks my head off with his big boy, with his wedding tackle. All of a sudden, I realized everybody is nude except me, Barry, and Richard Dale, who was doing the lighting. And so he walks away, and of course, the last thing you should be looking at was his wedding tackle. And the only thing we were looking at was his wedding tackle. And it was like half burnt, sunburnt, because you could see it had been out for a few outings. It'd been out for a few outings. So John didn't seem to care at all. So I says to Barry and Richard, "We got to do something. Come follow me." So there's about 200 people there now. They're all naked. So we go into the loo, and we came back out with our underpants on. And Barry, a big boy he was, just happened to have these underpants that we'd bought him at a boutique. It was been his birthday, and they had firemen and shit on it. It was a gay boutique. So he walked around with these underpants on. And oh man, I mean, I always remember my mum saying, "Now put some clean underwear on." And I just wondered then, I don't think she had this in mind.
That's a good one.
He's a good guy, John Mayall, by the way. He's a nice guy, very clever.
And John Mayall's still out there, isn't he? He's evidently a cross-dresser or a happy dresser, whatever. But he's an interesting guy.
Transvestite story now, aren't you, Stephen? Well, no, I won't come out with that one. Everybody was gay, you know that. Everybody was gay in the London scene. And it was a great experience for me because coming from where I came from, Bolton, you know, you never really came across anybody that was other than normal. Going down to London, I end up in cabs with 3 gays: Simon White, Kenny Bell, and Jack Barry. Jack Barry became my closest friend. And it was tough at first. I remember, I'm not giving any names, but we lived in this place in Hammersmith, and underneath at the basement was two people. One was the manager of Rod Stewart, Irish, a long time ago, and he had his little gay boyfriend. I'm not ridiculing, because, like I say, it was fantastic. I loved the company, always did. But he came walking in for breakfast, and he's like this, holding his bum, said, "Jesus Christ, you nearly split me in two, Billy." And I went, "Oh, God, no." And I thought, can I be swallowed up, please, right now, and not be anywhere? No, don't. I couldn't make it for the door fast enough. And they was just taking the piss out of me. And I was, of course, practically in tears. And Jack stood up for me. And then I'll finish it off with the guy at the top of the apartment was gay, and he didn't care who knew about it. So he was open. Jack said, "Whatever you do, Brian's going to shout you up. Don't go." I said, "All right." So as soon as Jack went, "Brian, you got to come up here quick. Quick, you got to come up here. I've a little bit of an accident here." "I can't." Jack said, "I can't come up." I mean, I was only 18, you know. "I can't come up," he said. And so he says, "Brian, come on, you're from North, aren't you? You're a good lad. Now come and help me." Oh, I said, "All right." So I get up there, and I hear this voice coming out of the bedroom, and there's a table with an apple on it. He says, "Just help yourself, Brian. I'll be straight out there in a minute." So I grab an apple, and I'm just about to bite this apple. And Brian comes out with his pants around his ankles, a King Edward cigar, going, "Have you ever seen anything like this, Brian?" I said, "You bastard, what are you doing?" And he had KY all over him. He said, "I can't get it, it's stuck." I said, "Fuck you, you bastard, leave me alone." He just was outrageous, this guy. But as soon as you get to know somebody who's openly gay, I'd rather have their company than anybody else's, to be honest, because there's something about gay people once they've come out. They're so happy. They're happier people, I think, than normal people. Maybe you can tell us about this. Are you a happier person being gay? I said, are you a happier person being gay?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Not at all. No.
Haven't you told the guys what you used to do?
It's not affected me at all, Brian. I thought you were great and a good fit, always.
Possibly not the best choice of phrases.